find percent unknowns. We're also going to perform computations using percents. Solve these problems by using what is called the translation methods whenever you want to find percent unknowns. So the first thing you need to know is there are three types of percent problems you'll see. So one type is where you're trying to find the percent. For example, what percent of 6 is 3? Another type is when you want to find the part. For example, what number is 50% of 6? Or if you want to find the whole. For example, 3 is 50% of what? So this is a table that came from your Algebra 1 textbook. So again, just so that you know, there are three basic types of percent problems that you're going to be dealing with. So let's see what they entail. In terms of the translation method, anytime you see the words of in a word problem, it usually indicates multiplication. And multiplication, you know, you can write it as a multiplication symbol with the crossed, or you can see it also in parentheses, or you can use the dot, either form of it. But anytime you see of, that's multiplication. Is, keyword there is equal. That's where you insert an equal sign. Whenever you hear what number, that is your unknown, your variable, your number that you're looking for. You can use any letter of the alphabet. Most commonly X is used, or the letter N, which stands for number. The other keyword you're going to look for when you hear what percent, that is where you're going to, your answer, you should know when you see what percent, your answer should be a percent. So that's what you're looking for. That's the unknown, is the percent. So whatever value you get, make sure that at the end that you turn it into a percent, because that was your unknown at that point, was your percent. And again, to make all of this make sense, let's do some actual problems. So in this one, it says, what is 9% of 65? So I'm going to show you how to use the translation method, where you're going to translate your words word for word of what they mean, and just simply bring down your numbers. So what, we don't know. Remember I said when you say what, that's your some number unknown. So we can use any letter of the alphabet we like, or we can use N or X. The most common one is to use. Is, remember I said every time you see is, that's where you're going to insert the equal sign, because that means an equal sign. 9%, let's go ahead and write that as a decimal. Anytime you see a percent, it's best to write it as a decimal. It's a lot easier to calculate. So that would be moving that 2 places to the left. Recall, when we want to turn it to a decimal, is to the left. So 2 to the left, it becomes 0.09. Next, we have of. Anytime you see of, that's going to be a multiplication symbol. So we can go ahead and write that. And then we have 65. So once we translate that, what we have is 0.09 times 65. So go ahead and do that on your calculator. And what you should get then is 5.85. And so we have our answer. 5.85 is 9% of 65, because we wanted to know what is 9% of 65. And the answer is 5.85 using the translation method. Let's do another one. So here we have 24. Let's go ahead and translate it. Let's bring it down. Remember, anytime you see is, we're going to place what there? That's correct. Equal sign. What percent? So, and when it says what percent, that means when I'm finished with this particular problem, I need to make sure that that value is a percent. It needs to be in percent form because that's what we want to know is what percent. So we're going to go ahead for now and just use a variable for a placeholder and put the percent there. Of, anytime you see of, that is going to be, remember, multiplication, and bring the 144 down. So n times 144, anytime you have a number and a variable being multiplied, then you're just going to stick them together. When they're sandwiched together, that means the same thing as they're being multiplied. So here is our equation. What's our last step to solving this equation? Yes, we need to divide by 144. And recall, whatever you do to one side, you must do to the other. So now on the calculator, we want to do top divided by the bottom, 24 divided by 144. And what you should get on the calculator is 0.1666. That goes on and on and on, but we're going to go ahead and put a bar over the 6 because it's the 6 that's repeating itself. But remember, for this one, we have to write it in percent form. So even though it goes on 66666, we have to write this as a percent. So remember, if you have a decimal, move over 2 places to turn it to a percent. That would be 1, 2. So you're going to have 16.6666666, which if we round that to the nearest hundredths place, you're going to leave 2 decimal places up, or 2 numbers up. So it rounds to 16.67, because even though you have 66666 goes on forever, when we leave 2 numbers up, because that's the hundredths place, it becomes 0.67 and not 0.66. Okay? So the answer is that 24 is 16.67% of 144. Next example, using the translation method, go ahead and bring 36 down. We're going to bring down an equal sign. 6%, we're going to eventually bring it down as a decimal, 0.06, but if you want, you can leave it now as a percent of. Go ahead and turn it into multiplication. What, we don't know, that's our variable, so you can put any letter of the alphabet you like. So what we're going to have here is 0.06 times n. Anytime you have a variable and a number multiplied, you simply join them together. Next step to solving this equation, we're going to do what? Yes, we need to divide by 0.06. Whatever you do to one side, you must do to the other. Now use your calculator to divide. 36 divided by 0.06. And what we get is 600. So 36 is 6% of 600. There you have it, using the translation method. Now I'm going to show you another method. You can also solve these equations involving percents, is using the A over B method. So if you ever heard of A over B, P over 100, so the A stands for the amount, B stands for the base, and P stands for the percent. So you always write it as A over B equals P over 100. That's the ratio there. So in fact, we're going to do those same three that we did using the translation method. I just want to show you we'll still get the same answer. So starting with that first example we did, what is 9% of 65? So anytime you see of, behind of is going to be your base. So your base, B, is 65. So that's going to go down at the bottom where the B is. Okay, so what is your amount? You don't know what it is. So that's going to remain the variable. So the A will stay there. We do know the percent. The percent is 9%. So the 9 is going to go where the P is. So let's go ahead and put everybody in their places. And now that we have our equation, when you have an equation, recall in a previous section on proportion, when you have one fraction on one side and one on the other, or one rational expression, you can use cross multiplication. And so I like to start with my variable sides first. You would go ahead and multiply 100 times A, which it would be 100A, and then you'll do 65 times 9 the other cross way, which should give you what, 585, I believe. Yes. So you have 100A on one side and 585 on the other. Last step to solving this equation is to do what? Yes, divide by 100. And A, the amount we were looking for, equals 5.85, which was the same answer we got when we used the translation method. Let's do the next example. So recall this one. Let's look for all of our parts. Whatever is in front of is our amount. So we do have our amount this time. So where the A is, we're going to put the 24. We don't have our percent this time. We don't know what it is. So that's going to be our P that remains there. Behind of is always your base, your bottom number. So the 144 is going to go there. Let's put everybody in their places. So here's our equation. We're going to use cross multiplication to write our equation. So starting with the variable side, we're going to have 144 times P, which is 144P, and then 100 times 24 is 2400. Our next step to solving this equation is to do what? Yes, divide by 144. Whatever you do to one side, you do to the other using your calculator. 2400 divided by 144 will equal what? You should get 0.16. That goes on and on and on. And again, when we round that, it rounds to 16.67%. And again, we need to make sure that this is in percent form, because in this problem it asks you what percent. So your answer should be a percent. Moving on to the last example, using the A over B P over 100 method. Remember, whatever is in front of is your amount. So A is going to be 36. We have our percent, which is 6%, so remove the P and place a 6 there. Behind of is our base. This time we don't know what our base is, so we're going to leave the B as our variable we need to solve for. So let's go ahead and put everyone in their places. We're going to use cross multiplication to solve. We want to solve this equation. So 6 times B is 6B on one side, and on the other side, cross, you have 36 times 100, which is 3600. Last step to solving this equation is to do what? Yes, divide by 6. Whatever you do to one side, you do to the other, and 3600 divided by 6 equals, yes, you got it, 600. And there you have it. Using the A over B, P over 100 equation method.